Hello everyone, it is Peter again, and today I would like to finish up the very long introduction to the Jewish Ghetto tour. And today, to do it properly, I would like to speak about the Nazi ideology. So to explain basically why the Jews are being discriminated, and eventually also how was the organization of this, let's say, solving the Jewish case that was started by the Nazi, how was this organization developed? To speak about this subject in a proper way, we need to start with the end of the First World War. The end of the First World War is happening in the Palace of Versailles in Paris, in France. And out of there, the Germans, they need to sign their capitulation, and this capitulation is also having very bad restrictions for them. These restrictions are related to the military and to the economy mainly, except from the huge territorial losses, which you can find out on the internet. I'm going to rather focus on the fact that the Germans, they stopped counting in a military way after the First World War for some time. It's mainly because of the restrictions related to the numbers. So the land forces are reduced to 100,000 and there is no approval for tanks or any heavy armored vehicles. The navy forces are being reduced to 15,000 and there are only 36 ships that the Germans are allowed to keep. There is more to it in this particular case, because once the ship will touch the surface of the water, then a renovation or a technological upgrade can only be made past 25 years of time. So speaking honestly, the Germans, not yet the Nazi, are outnumbered and they are having bad technology, very old one. And this is something that is already quite harsh, but then there is of course a cherry on the cake, which these are the reparations. The reparations were estimated to be equal with 132 German marks, 132 billions of German marks, and this was equal at that time with 33 billions of dollars, American. And then the estimation of how it was supposed to be paid off was that for the next years, 50 years, Germany will give away 3% of its annual GDP. Speaking more frankly, it is a surreal amount in some way. The Germans stopped paying it, finished up paying it in 2010 only. So it is rather a fresh thing. But what is a short conclusion here is that the generation that starts the war is not only the one that will face the consequences of losing it. And that is precisely the moment that psychology is going to work in this way, so that it will push the people so not to, in fact, respect the Versailles Treaty. It will push the people. Which people, you'll ask? Of course, we're speaking about the moment that the Germans, the older generations, the ones responsible for the war, they will see that either they will comply and they will obey the Versailles Treaty, and by the same they will create next 2 or 3 generations of their nation to in fact be sort of a slave to Europe, or we can start thinking about our own well-being and we can make preparations so to have the new generations to be able to defend themselves. And precisely, once we have precisely with this factor, we are going to start the explanation. We have the broken German nation, and to make the nation, the whole group, to stand up from their knees, and to start acting in a fruitful way, then firstly we need to restore the pride. And to do it, it's quite difficult to brainwash a person that's already well formed with its character and with the way of thinking. Then of course the new generations are going to be the ones to fully feel the change. And to make the change to happen, then we are going to have the older generations being in the need of approving the change for the young ones. And this is logical. Let's say, metaphorically speaking, if I'm a very good personal trainer and right now today I'm around 34, 32 years of age. So if I'm telling you as a personal trainer that if you'll come with me, then in 3 weeks of my very author training program, you're going to start competing with Usain Bolt on a distance of 100 meters. Then if you are 34, just like myself, then you know that I'm bullshitting you. But if you are 10, then absolutely you're going to start feeling a dose of excitement for the upcoming trainings and possible achievement that is waiting. And precisely the young generations, they cannot tell. Life experience is not defending them yet. And this is precisely what the German government is using after the First World War. There is the myth of the Aryan race. The Aryans were supposed to be strong and big like Vikings. And they are supposed to have, of course, blue eyes, blonde hair, and of course being very smart as well as an addition. And these are the true ancestors of the first Germans. Knowing this, once you are 6 years of age, then this is in fact quite of a good story. And of course, once you're starting to identify yourself with it, then there is also an additional thing that is a necessity to happen. This is that if I want, as a government, I want to cement the loyalty of the people, then except from changing the educational program, which is not giving a very large upgrade to the life quality, except from that, I must give the people something that they will feel on everyday basis. And in here we need to bring the person to the stage, the person of Adolf Hitler. And as much as I'm not willing to say that Adolf Hitler was a very cool fellow that had a very huge achievements in, let's say, humanitarian field of life, of course we are going to have Mr. Adolf being a proper sociopath, and of course being as an addition a confirmation that sociopaths are becoming extremely efficient politicians. But the main thing that he's doing is that he is using the very same mechanism that his mentor, which is Benito Mussolini, used in Italy to secure the loyalty and support of the nation. What has Mr. Mussolini done then? Mr. Mussolini, and this is a very important thing for me to underline, in the times that he is ruling, he is able to say Italy is me. And as much as this has already happened throughout the history, precisely there was a monarchy of France, and out there was a gentleman called Ludwig, in Polish at least that's the name, and he is the one to regularly say France is me. He's able to do unthinkable things, but the people at that time are not as well educated, they are more easily manipulated, and in the monarchy time it is much easier. Later on, what Mr. Mussolini did is actually already quite impressive, because these are not stupid people that are following him. So how was it possible? Mainly because of his attitude. His way of thinking was that he's a dictator, of course, so there are very few people that can go against him, but also he was aware that he must retain the image of a good father to the nation. And because of that, there are huge changes, upgrades to the infrastructure, to the life quality provided by this way of thinking, by this policy. So Mr. Mussolini, at one point, he's also cementing this kind of way of thinking in a society by giving the fiat to the people. Fiat, which is Fabbrica Italiana Automobile. This is a regular company that is changing the life quality of the people in Italy, and this is what secures the very strength of Mr. Mussolini. Mr. Adolf, as much as today we say that we are living in the world of open doors, we search the net, the web, and then everything is there. We just need to pick the path of these, which open doors do we want to go through. Mr. Adolf is not yet living in the times of the internet, but he's already looking at Mr. Benito Mussolini, and he is registering what kind of successful methods and mechanisms was he using. Of course, why would he do it? So to later on use it in his very own ground. To cement the loyalty in Germany, Mr. Adolf is copying the Fiat solution and is giving the car to the people, which in German it will be Volkswagen. Volks, people, wagon, car. And with this very moment, there is also a certain new grounds that the whole society is entering. So we are going to have the Germans receiving the car. We are going to have the Germans receiving the educational background. But then there is one additional thing more that is supposed to create a feeling of solidarity inside the nation. And again, this is something related to Mr. Hitler. We are having a special initiative starting called as Hitlerjugend. And Hitlerjugend, those were free of charge vacations provided to the supporters of the Nazi party in Germany, and twice a year, once to the mountains most likely and once to the sea, the young German boys and girls are sent for holidays. And then, as much as it can sound quite stupid, how could holidays cement the, let's say, the loyalty to the Nazi party? It's not only a trip to the mountains. This is something that is very important to be underlined. Within these camps, that every single child with the age of 10 should participate. Then further on, until in fact receiving the age of an adult. You're going to have these camps also being used as a tool for the propaganda. And we are having Mr. Adolf regularly using these camps to make the young generations to already receive a slightly different software. What kind of software? For instance, in these camps, you are always participating in some kind of a class, and there is of course your teacher. And within those classes, first thing that you should do is that you should follow the drill, which is whenever somebody superior to you is coming, then you're supposed to greet him. And just like the soldiers in the Roman Empire would say Ave Caesar to pay the respect to the ruler, then we are going to have little girls and boys copying Ave Caesar, but with a slight addition of straightening your arm and saying Heil Hitler. This is the proper greeting that is executed from you as a child already. Then, I can tell you that this is not the end. The Heil Hitler is just the first gesture. The second thing is the swastika. And swastika, in fact, speaking slightly earlier than Adolf Hitler, a mirror reflection of swastika used to be a proper symbol of happiness in India. And these are hundreds of years confirming that this is the understanding of the symbol. And then Mr. Adolf is making a mirror reflection of it, killing more than 6 million of the Jews, of course not by his own hands, but as a result of the war and the policy. And then the swastika today is not something that anyone will hang on the wall. Not often, at least. The matter is that with the swastika, I was starting with the second kind of a pillar that's making the society united. So swastika was everywhere. Just like in Poland, I can tell you that over 95% of the Polish people are Roman Catholics. Then, based on the example of my grandmother, she would hang either a little picture of Saint Mary or Jesus, or simply a cross above the entrance to the house, as a symbol that there is a religious family staying here. The thing is that in Germany, swastika would go past the doorstep of the people as well. The people would hang it above the entrance as well. They would have little Jägermeister glasses, little shots with swastika ornamentation on it. There is more to it. There are regular glassy balls for the Christmas tree that they are having swastika on them as well. So it is everywhere around you, and as a little human, you're defenseless. It becomes your absolutely normal reality, and you cannot see through it. There is more to it, because the propaganda was so complex that not only are we having the little guys, young generations of the Germans going to these camps and receiving paramilitary trainings there related to sailing, navigation, shooting, land orientation. So everything like that is being put into these minds. The thing is that there is more to it, because once they are coming back home, then there is swastika everywhere. And then if we are speaking, for instance, about the Christmas period, then not only are we looking at the swastika at the Christmas balls, the Christmas glassy balls hanging on the tree, but we are also looking at for instance, at the Christmas gift that is waiting for us under the tree. Then we unpack it, and what will show up is a crew of little soldiers, the same ones that are presented in Toy Story in the background, next to Buzz Astral and Woody. And we are going to have, though of course they are not made out of plastic yet, they are made out of wood. And this is another part of the indoctrination. This is another thing that these children, they do not know, but once they play with those little children, then they don't know that they play with themselves in 20 years of time, in fact. These are all the little details that eventually they are leading the society to enter the ground of solidarity. We feel united. We know that we are having a very, very proud background if it comes to the Aryan race, and then eventually what is going to make us to feel united the most and gives us strength and motivation to act is what? It's the same for all the people in the world, and that is a common enemy. What kind of common enemy do I bear in mind? If the government would present such rhetorics, there are people living among the Germans that they did not participate in the war because their religion is forbidding them to actually go and become a soldier. Then, except from this, these are the people that are very wealthy. They are business owners. They are not feeling the grim consequence of losing the Second World War. I mean, they do feel it in general as the whole economy is slightly lower, but if it comes to their own personal life quality, it's not going down that much. And if it comes to such situation, then unfortunately the German government is allowing the discrimination of the Jews to have to face a very certain development rate. From one day to another, the Jews, they are forced to wear armbands to be easily identified. Then over time, some of the Jews, let's say some of the Jews with higher education, they would lose their licenses, allowing them to perform their profession. So there are a couple of factors step by step that are making the life of the Jews more difficult, and over time, eventually, there is an official announcement coming from the German government saying that if there is any country willing to accommodate the German Jews, then that is the time to speak up. Not many countries did speak up. And as far as I'm concerned, in Europe it was only Denmark. Even Poland, possessing 3.5 million of the Jews, would not agree to accommodate more. Then, after a very low reaction of the outside world, we are going to have such kind of discrimination going further on and developing, so to eventually, in the 30s, reach the phenomenon of the Crystal Night. The Kristallnacht in German. And this is a German-wide action that paramilitary police is regularly allowed to crush all the Jewish businesses and Jewish belongings that they see fit. Within one night, in the whole country, 7,000 of Jewish businesses were visited with sledgehammers. Synagogues as well, in the number of 260. And then 30,000 of Jewish men were taken into the camps that were already started to be arranged. With this kind of development of the situation, what's happening is that very soon we are having the Second World War starting. And the Second World War starts in 1939 in September, and immediately, once the Nazi, they face a new land with the Jewish population staying in it, then it turns out that the scale of the population is very, very large, and it demands an additional portion of thoughtfulness to be put into it to make it efficient. And this is why the Nazi, they implement this so-called the ghetto solution. What does it mean? The Jews, they are not stupid. Once the war has started and they know that the Jews in Germany, they face discrimination. Then here in Poland, a lot of people would either leave the country, or they would convert into Roman Catholicism, or they would find, and I should say maybe they are seeking any additional way to cover, to hide their identity. This is not easy. The Germans are also not stupid. Once they are entering any new land, they enter the synagogue, they gather the data of who's been circumcised, who is a Jew, who is not. And then also from the synagogue you can gather the data about where do you live, who are your parents. So in fact all the social structure is, the Nazis are able to work based on the documents from the synagogues. Then once they know with what kind of crowd they are going to deal with, we are going to have them coming to one place with a larger Jewish community, and then they are removing the Polish Catholics from one area, and then they pack up the Jews into one location. I will not speak about the ghettos in Poland in general. I will focus only on the Jewish ghetto in Warsaw. The Jewish ghetto in Warsaw was the largest one. It was having the number of 400,000 of the Jews staying in it in one point, and this number of 400,000 is packed up into the area equal with 307 hectares. And as much as these statistics are not giving you a proper image, then I would like you to imagine that you have a block of flats. Each flat is having around 60 meters square. Then if you are able to imagine that an average Jewish family at that time is a mom, is a dad, of course, and we have 2 children, is having 4 members, then once we are arriving to a 60 square meter apartment as the first family, then we tend to think that it's not so bad. The worst part is that once we come as the first family, then the Nazi, they are not telling us, not instructing us that their calculation foresees each apartment being accommodating 7 families. So once you are coming to an apartment as the first family, eventually you are discovering that 7 more families are joining you, having the same documents as you have received. And once the whole relocation stops, the true nightmare of the ghetto is revealed. And mainly I speak about the fact that there are people living everywhere. Every unit of space that has a roof above is taken. If you're going to imagine basements, balconies, staircases, inner yards, not speaking yet about the apartments themselves, then these spaces are all occupied. The whole situation is getting much worse once they forced the Jews to build a Jewish ghetto wall that in some places was reaching even 5 to 6 meters of height. So even if you are a person going to a CrossFit dock every second day, then you're not going to climb it without any efforts. Once the Jewish ghetto wall is built, there are 3 factors that the Nazis are taking within their full control. It's the food factor. It is the number of calories equal for one day for one Jew is set with 300. And to present a picture, then 300 is a cheeseburger from McDonald's in Europe or 2 Kit Kat bars. Then 300 calories for one Jew for one day. Secondly, no medical coverage, no medical service, no hospitals or whatsoever. And thirdly, of course, no hygiene products. And now please combine all of those 3 things together. Imagine that they're lasting for 3 years. And this is precisely how the ghetto was working. What I would like to underline in here very shortly is the fact that if you've ever tried to undertake a diet, then a dietitian is going to prepare 1,500 calories for one person for one day, and this person is not having physical labor performed. So, speaking more openly, this information means that none of us today is in fact able to even imagine the conditions that these Jewish people were facing. If I were to present an example coming from my life, then once I have undertaken a diet of 2,000 calories per day, then I managed to withstand 10 days, and then out of the sudden I was sitting in my couch watching TV, and in a magical way there was a slice of pepperoni here in my hand already. If it comes to 300 calories given for 3 years, I cannot imagine it. This is something that our reality is simply not even allowing you to be hungry for more than 7 hours in one day, not speaking about the time of 3 years. But once we are going to imagine all of these conditions, then it will be easy for us to imagine the statistics, right? The Nazis are regularly running reports of what is the state of the Jewish ghetto solution. The thing is that in the first year of ghetto existence, the report would say that 3,000 of the Jews would die. The second year of ghetto existence would bring the report equal with 40,000. And the third year of ghetto existence would bring the report equal with 44,000. This is equal with 87,000 of people that have died within 3 years of time. As this is 87,000, then the overall target that I've mentioned already is 400,000. Then once this report is sent from Warsaw to Berlin, and in Berlin we have a gentleman called as Jürgen Stropp, and Mr. Jürgen, he is regularly looking at the report and he is not happy and satisfied. I should even say, actually he's exactly feeling the opposite. He is angry and scared. He's not reached even 25% of the overall amount that is presented as his target. 87,000 out of 400,000, that's not the German efficiency that is so famous. So this is why Mr. Jürgen, once he realizes that the Jewish ghetto solution is not efficient enough, then he is instructing the administration office in the ghetto with a gentleman of Adam Chernyakov working as a head of that administration. Mr. Adam is instructed that if the Jews will start generating 3,000 of volunteers every single day, then the Nazi will provide a suitable transportation that will take all of that large group to a new location that's absolutely much better than the ghetto. In here, a lot of people are going to ask whether these Jews were not able to see through that deception. And the answer is that these Jews were not trusting the Nazi fully. But on the other hand, if you are going to recall 300 calories for the past 3 years, then I guess that the motivation for leaving the nightmare of the ghetto is only natural. Speaking honestly and in a different way, starting with day 1, related to the transportation, 3,000 of the Jews, volunteers of course, they are ready, waiting to take the trip. The bad thing is that the Jews, they do not know, but they are from Warsaw, they are taken directly to Treblinka. And in January of the year of 1942, we are having a special conference arranged in a kind of city called Wenza in Germany. And out there, all the solutions used in the death camps were mastered and figured out. So, unfortunately, I do not want to speak about the arrangement related to the camps yet, because there will be a separate episode related to the death camps, and most probably there will be particularly 3 or 4 of these camps that I would like to show to you. Then with these episodes I would like to widen the subject of how is one camp built, what were the rules, the conditions that one camp should meet to be put into realization, and also what kind of solutions were they prepared for the Jews. I would like to say a big thank you for today. This is what I wanted to share if it comes to the 3rd part of the introduction to the Jewish Ghetto tour. The next episode is already going to present the fragment, or the only remaining fragment of the Jewish ghetto wall. So I'm in fact encouraging you to stay slightly longer and take a look at it, as the true sightseeing in fact starts with the very next episode. Thank you for your attention today. Enjoy the rest of the day, and bye-bye.